You're listening to What in the NDIS, the News, a podcast where I, Hannah Redford, and my friend Sam Rosenbaum discuss all the hot topics out of the NDIS. This episode of What in the NDIS Now is brought to you by Astolti. Astolti is the software solution for NDIS professionals, built by NDIS professionals. It's my go-to software, and it's trusted and loved by hundreds of other NDIS providers. I love how easy it is to use, keeping all my participant information, notes, and invoicing in one place, available anytime from any device. Astolti are currently building out their scheduling platform after 4 years in the making. If you provide core supports and are looking for a scheduling platform to meet your needs, head to astolti.com.au/rostering waitlist. Hey Sam, how you going?
Yeah, really well, Hannah. Yourself?
I'm hot. It's hot today when we're recording.
Well, summer is coming at us with a vengeance, and while I don't like winter, I don't know where I sit on summer anymore. It's just either too hot or too cold. There's just there's no just right.
No, well, 30 degrees at the beginning of October is a little much.
It's a wee bit warm.
Yes. And so I'm not closing the windows or the doors, so if you hear birds, just enjoy some background fun. I've got a joke for you, Sam.
Hit me, Hannah.
Why did the Scarecrow win an award?
I don't know, Hannah. Why did the Scarecrow win an award?
Because he was outstanding in his field.
See what you did there? That was good. Quite clever. 10 points to Gryffindor there, Hannah. But it has definitely been warm and jokes are all good, but there has been quite a bit of news and roller storm happening in the NDIS world, as always.
Yes, and we are here to get through as much of it as we humanly possibly can without this being a 3-hour podcast.
Well, I don't think we're going to take the full... won't take the full 3 hours there, Hannah, but let's get into it nonetheless. From the 3rd of October, you can no longer submit invoices that are older than 2 years. If you now try to submit an invoice that is older than 2 years, it'll be automatically rejected. So realistically, if you're taking more than 6 months to ask for some payment, something isn't in your process, isn't working, and you need to come talk with us.
Absolutely. Because you also can't function as a business without money. So what are people doing that they're taking more than 2 years to put invoices in?
Who knows? All right, so there's been lots of talk recently about the ICANN assessments and what they are. Hannah, do you want to dive us into this a little bit more?
Absolutely. So a long time ago, we were told by the federal government that they were going to bring in these needs assessments. So they went out to market to see what kind of assessment already existed that they could just buy. And so on Thursday, the 25th of September this year, the federal government announced that they had found the assessment they're going to use as the needs assessment, and it is called ICANN. It is for anyone over 16, and it will take 5 years to roll out to everybody. Now, the idea of these is that participants will no longer need their OT reports or speech reports or need to spend any of their funding on any of that, because theoretically the ICANN will capture all of that information, which I am really dubious of, and so is a lot of other people. ICANN uses a standardised scoring system, which they're using to reduce variability and subjectivity in how support needs are assessed. so that everyone is in neat little boxes that can be scored, and your score will then dictate your funding. There are 12 domains of activity and participation. So I'm going to go through them really quickly for you, Sam, so that we all hear exactly what they are. So 1 is mobility, 2 is domestic life, 3 is self-care, 4 is community, social and civic life, 5 is communication, 6 is learning and applying knowledge, 7 is general tasks and demands, 8 is lifelong learning, 9 is interpersonal interactions and relationships, 10 is behaviours of concern, 11 is mental and emotional health, and 12 is physical health. So far, are you following along?
Well, there's definitely a bit to take in there, Hannah.
Yeah, and I think one of the things you pointed out earlier was about some of them sounding really similar, and why do you sort of need this as a separate category?
Yeah, it definitely raises some questions around simplicity, around the transparency, and it's just scaring a lot of the people, a lot of the participants, and there are a lot of us professionals that even while we can see what's an ICANN, we're just dumbfounded by, once again, the government not walking their talk of including us.
The sector has come out with a lot of criticisms of this. And the first one is that ICANN was developed to be used by allied health professionals, so people who have a lot of training, but instead the people who are going to use the ICANN to do these needs assessments on participants will be employees from the NDIS and not necessarily allied health professionals.
I could not believe when we were discussing this, part of the key requirements of the ICANN assessment tool is that it is undertaken by a mainstream or allied health kind of profession and background to be able to undertake this assessment. But once again, the government has failed to really understand and follow through with what we've been what they keep on discussing and what they include us for and what we have conversations for and why we've had the NDIS review and why we've had several reviews and own motion inquiries into how all of this is working and different Senate hearings and different conversations and magnitude of consultations of keep on coming back to this exact same problem as having non-trained or unqualified people making the decisions and working in the key fundamental areas that impact the participants' lives that we're working with in the first place.
Right? So some of the other criticisms are about privacy and the issue of right now, as the proposal stands, it would be a 3-hour interview with a stranger in your home, which can be really overwhelming. And also, I can't focus for 3 hours. How the hell do they expect people to do this? The next big problem I have is so many of the people I previously have worked with, when we would see an OT or a speechy or even their GP, they would downplay and misunderstand the questions. They would often say, oh, yeah, I can do everything. I can do that. I can do that. But when you actually ask them to perform a task, they can't do it. And so my big concern is that these will be people have the potential to be graded incorrectly just because they don't understand the questions they're being asked, and they think that it's better if they sound more functional than what they are.
100%. And this has always been a concern that every support coordinator has had going into any review meeting over the last 10 years. The big thing that really comes across from that is the real risk of the cookie cutter plans that government is trying to actually eliminate. But in doing the ICANN assessments, what we get is essentially an algorithmic tool that then becomes a decision-making master. And what we don't know from the ICANN and the scores that come out of that, how does that flow into what we call the typical support package? Because essentially that's what it's going to still become down to, is what the funding is. How is it calculated at the end of the day? And we are really unsure how it will be converted into the funding amounts, because the government has not released the detailed information about the algorithm workings. And while a assessment tool is all well and good, and while ICANN has been developed by some very smart minds with some very good intention, once again, I'm having this conversation about the implementation from the government and the NDIA and the Quality and Safeguards Commission into how all this rolls out and plays out at the end of the day. And the key things that we need to know, that the participants need to know, that the providers need to know on how all of this is going to work between now and the next 5 years, because we're going into another transitional period if we get from all of this, because from the NDIS review, it's changing everything and the government's got its own agenda, and lots of people are really scared that we're going to lose our NDIS, and they're doing this without us once again.
Yeah, absolutely. Another concern is the potential bias, because the assessors will be employed directly from the NDIA. So how will we get around this idea of the problem with the fact that they are direct employees? To me, it's a bit like when people go to ART and sometimes the lawyers say, oh, we need an independent OT to come and do a new FCA, and we'll pay for it. And I'm always like, hang on a second, how is that independent if you're the ones that are going to pay for it?
It's really clear that the government is really missing the mark when it comes to actually delivering on true transparency and meaningful co-design. Right to challenge the outcome of this as well is really not clear. It seems like a lot of the appeal process are being stripped out of this left, right, and centre. And without understanding how the tool is actually going to be interpreted and then used to calculate the funding, it just red flags left, right, and centre, and people should be hold valid concerns, the same as we did when the Liberal national government was trying to bring in
independent assessments, which is what this is. It is independent assessments by another name.
Yeah, and without the independency either. But I think I like that a little bit better than this going to third-party insurance agencies.
Right. So our next item on our list is an update on the yes-no lists, or officially they are called supports that are NDIS supports - can be purchased with funding, and supports that are not NDIS supports - cannot be purchased with funding. Now that's a mouthful and ridiculously long sentences for the naming of a document. This gets me every time.
It's something.
So, for 12 months, these lists were in draft form, but as of the 3rd of October, they are now firm. This means that if a participant spends funding that is not in accordance with the new lists, they may have to pay back that money to the NDIA, or as some are calling it, Robo-Debt 2.0. The lists can be found on the NDIS website. The other thing we will touch on quickly to do with the yes-no lists is the concept of replacement supports. A replacement support is typically a standard, widely available household item. The replacement support should increase independence and reduce the need for a support worker. To apply for a replacement support, you need an OT to write why you need the replacement support and how it would be useful to you. Then you need to use the information and fill in the application for replacement support form. And good luck with that.
That definitely, definitely a lot of paperwork there.
Sam, there's some fun stuff happening over at Fair Work. How about you tell us a little bit about what's happening at Fair Work?
Yeah, there's actually quite a fair bit been going on over in Fair Work. First off, they've changed the lost time injury frequency rate, and it is now called Workers' Compensation Injury Frequency Rate, or the WCIFR, which captures all the worker compensation claims, making it a broader and more accurate measure for workplace safety incidents. Safe Work Australia provides an online dashboard that shows the WCIFR by industry, occupational and claim type. It's quite an interesting look, especially when you start looking in our sector. Alongside that, we also have the Fair Work Ombudsman's inquiry into the disability support services sector. This inquiry, which is a priority area for the government and the Ombudsman, is due to the vulnerability of consumers, workers, and past findings of widespread non-compliance with workplace law. And every single provider listening knows that the Social Community, Home Care and Disability Services Industry Award is just a nightmare. So we also have high use of casual employees in the sector, which are predominantly female workers, along with high turnover issues. And this just creates some real big problems for the economy, as well as for providers being able to guarantee supports for participants. The inquiry will observe how the sector is structured and how employees behave to identify why non-compliance with Fair Work Act occurs and find the most effective ways to sustain culture of compliance in a provider. So the first stage is a multi-year inquiry will involve fact-finding, consulting with key stakeholders and industry partners, and identifying those patterns of behaviours, and also the barriers for providers for compliance.
Hey, Sam, I can tell you what the barriers to compliance are, or the biggest one, is understanding the stupid thing, because the SHADS award is so complex and poorly written that it's so hard to understand which part of it you should be looking at and paying your staff from.
Yeah, so that's 100% right, Hannah. So the next stage is going to focus on education and targeting those areas that they find out of that review, investigating non-compliance, including the concerns of behaviours from providers. If non-compliance is found, the inquiry will provide employers with tools and resources to help them meet their workplace responsibilities, and enforcement tools will be used if necessary. So the aim of this is to ensure workers are paid their lawful entitlements, that there is a strong understanding of the rights and obligations of providers and employees. Employers to find it easier to comply with the SHADS award from the first place, which will be very welcome, I am sure. Ensure that employers are committed to self-reporting non-compliance, that there is closer collaboration among the regulators, employers, and employee organisation and advocates. So the inquiry wants to hear about experience with workplace relations in the sector, what is working and what needs improvements. Contributions are welcome from disability support workers, employees and independent contractors, owners, directors, CEOs of businesses, including gig platforms, NDIS participants and otherwise, and everyone else involved in the sector that feels that they've got some concerns with this.
Next item of fun news is from right here in Queensland. There is new child safe laws starting from the 1st of October 2025, so a couple of weeks ago. Providers who work with children will be required to introduce the 10 child safe standards and the universal principle. There are a range of templates and resources on the Queensland Family and Child Commission website to help providers implement the changes. These resources include guidelines, a self-assessment, posters and training. You really need to start training your staff on these new laws now, like today, because they've already come in, and we have previously warned you about this coming. And now it's coming and it's here.
Very true, Hannah, and we will be bringing out some new resources to help with that. Do you want to also now take us through the recent ART critique of the Allied Health Professionals report?
Yeah, so I have written a bit of a longer blog on this that you will find on the Provider Advisory Services website. But in a quick nutshell, as best I can, there was an ART tribunal member who handed down their decision, and it was scathing of a participant's allied health professionals' reports and even their GP's reports. It's pretty funny. So first off, the problem was a lack of independent assessment. So several of the practitioners were found to have copied or repeated supports proposed by the participant without critically evaluating whether they were reasonable and necessary. And the member described this as a cut and paste exercise and was frustrated because it lacked independent professional judgment from the allied health professionals. There was a failure to distinguish between clinical and therapeutic supports. So this is something that has often been very difficult for allied health professionals to understand. And I totally understand, because usually you're writing reports for a GP, and if you haven't spent your whole career in the NDIS land, this might be pretty difficult. But essentially, supports that are clinical or treatment are excluded. But support by an allied health professional that may be capacity building or support a participant to stay at the level that they are at, that is potentially a support under the NDIS. In the report, too many of the allied health professionals there didn't understand that difference. So then there was an over-reliance on the participant's self-report. Again, the problem of the participant telling the allied health professionals what they wanted, and the allied health professionals just putting it in without showing in the rest of the report from clinical judgment why were those things actually needed.
Well, that's a bit of a failure of those professionals not doing their job in the first place, which we've seen this before with many issues, from doctors not understanding, professionals not understanding, participants not understanding, and more often not, support coordinators not understanding, and everyone just trying to do our best intentions, but at the same time not doing any justice.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And that you're sitting there in front of the person and going, oh, I just want to give you what you want because that's what you're asking me for and that's what you're paying me for, without thinking critically about it. So in the longer decision, and I wasn't fully going to go into this, but anyway, since we brought it up, part of it was also doing assessments over the phone, which obviously you can't see the person. And so the member found that was totally useless evidence and he wasn't going to take that on board. Okay, the next one was the use of AI writing the reports. Now, the member said, yes,
This is so good. Keep going. Please inform us on this. The readers have to know. Well, the readers. Our listeners have to get on this. It's both comical but horrifying.
Yeah. So the problem in this case was that the allied health professionals had used AI to entirely write the report. And part of the problem was it then ended up with different people's names in the report, different pronouns, different things in there that had nothing to do with this participant. It was pretty comical. And the member said, look, he understands these days people are going to use AI to a point, but if you're going to use AI, you must read it and you must correct it and you must take responsibility for the content of your report. And if you've used
100%.
AI, then come on, it's still your report that you have written. You can't say, well, I don't know, AI wrote it for me.
You're definitely right. And it raises some good points around the use of AI and ethics in the sector, and also the privacy integrity with the use of AI. Because under the Australian privacy principles, you're meant to also have transparency, and that includes transparency of saying when the AI is used in the first place. And under the NDIS practice standards, you're also meant to complete how we get consent for how we use participants' information. And if that is including shoving it into an AI system, that needs to be included.
Yeah, there are real privacy problems with putting it into AI, and the problem is that people haven't understood AI very well and they think, oh no, it's just a dumb program, it won't take any notice, but it does, and it can be hacked and you can be hacked, and there's a lot of issues. So just be seriously cautious about using AI.
Definitely, because if you want to see some really bad examples, just check out Google Deloitte and AI government report.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And Deloitte should have known better, and it is very, very funny.
And it sort of flows in conversations that we've been having behind the scenes and with some future guests around ethics in consulting and how consultants engage with the sector and how the sector should engage with consultants.
Number 5 was lack of justification in the reports. So the reports often lacked clear reasoning as to why a support was necessary under Section 34(1)AA, or value for money under Section 34(1)C, or effective and beneficial under Section 34(1)D. So if you need more understanding about what ART or what the NDIA are specifically looking for in allied health reports, have a look at my blog post. It is called Writing Reports That Matter. And if you have any more issues, under Plan Decoders, I do help allied health professionals by reading the reports and suggesting changes in wording.
Well, thank you for that, Hannah, and that's definitely some valued services that allied health professionals should jump in on. The next kind of the next thing that I am both positive and scathing about is that the NDIS Commission is finally looking at the practice standards. But it's finally, and sometimes I just think it's like we've had 101 reviews. Why? Just
we know what's wrong already. Come on, just fucking change it.
Anyway.
Jesus.
But we want to consultate a little bit more on or deep dive into the practice standards. So the Commission is undertaking a broad review of the practice standards to determine the scale of changes needed to incorporate key recommendations from the DRC, the NDIS review, and the own motion inquiries. The goal is to strengthen the standards and improve their application. Public consultations will run from late October to November, and they'll be run by KPMG starting on Monday, the 20th of October. They'll also include a consultation process. So they'll engage with people from the disability, their supports providers, peak body auditors, and other members of the broader sector. If you want to get involved, register to participate in the sessions, complete an online survey, which will run from October the 20th until close of business, November 13th. For those that are interested, that is also my birthday. Read the standard and easy read discussion papers that are being published on the webpage, and then send an open submission in writing, a video recording, or drawing in a visual format or email. Check out the link in our About section for more information if you're wanting to participate. So the Commission is also trying to promote the NDIS Code of Conduct and has released a new video campaigns, which is a good time for all providers to brush up every staff's use of the Code of Conduct, especially in light of quite a number of different things coming out in mainstream media for providers or involving providers. I think everyone needs to have a hard look at themselves and that Code of Conduct.
Yeah, absolutely. The Code of Conduct is really, really important. And we had seen recently some doozies of not upholding the Code of Conduct.
Oh, not even upholding, blatantly storming both a current affair and YouTube to battered it down.
This episode was made possible with thanks to the support of Plan Decoders. Plan Decoders are NDIS experts. We are here to help participants, carers and families understand the NDIS and get the most out of their NDIS plan. Make an appointment for a Plan Decoders session if you want to understand your NDIS plan, understand your funding, find out more about what services and supports are available to NDIS participants, understand the NDIS in general, prepare for a plan review, or get any questions you have about the NDIS answered. If you or someone you know could use some support from Plan Decoders, contact me, Hannah, by heading to plandecoders.com.au. So, Sam, the reviews keep coming and they don't stop coming.
They don't stop coming like a Nest Club party.
That's not quite the song I was thinking of, but anyway, that's
all right. Well, look.
What's the next review on the block? We've all been wondering what the heck is happening with mandatory registration and if we need to do something about it now. So the ever-helpful NDIS Quality and Safeguards Commission released their report titled Mandatory Registration of Supported Independent Living and Support Coordination, What We Heard. This report summarises the feedback they received during the consultation period earlier this year. So let me tell you what they heard. Overall, most people supported the improving of service quality and participant safety through mandatory registration. However, significant concerns were raised about the practical impact and implementation of the changes. If you were hoping for more clarity here, they don't provide it. But they heard us, don't you know? They heard us, which is nice, I guess. The 4 common concerns were, number 1, cost pressures. Unregistered providers, sole traders and small businesses were worried about the cost and administrative burden of meeting the new registration and audit requirements, which I think is totally fair because that's what always stopped me from getting registered.
Yeah, it's definitely been a pay point, but it's also, none of this is surprising.
Yeah, like they could have just asked me and I would have helped them. So number 2 was keeping current supports in place. So participants and their supporters were concerned they might lose access to their trusted long-standing providers if those providers could not or chose not to register. This loss of support could be stressful and disruptive, which I think is a really good criticism, and I really support that. Number 3, fairness and flexibility in requirements. Respondents called for the registration requirements to be flexible and consider differences in provider size, location, service type, and cultural expertise. Number 4, need for clearer information. Both providers and participants felt they lacked sufficient, clear and consistent information about the transition process, timelines and practical expectations for the changes because they haven't figured this out and they aren't giving us any details.
We've been saying this for quite some time. Transparency and aptitude seems to be a missed point.
Yeah, right. The NDIS Commission claim they will use feedback in the What We Heard reports to shape the implementation and rollout of the new requirements. They will be holding more consultations.
Look, there was one thing that Bill Shorten said at the end of the NDIS review sort of thing when he was spouting the review without saying what recommendations they were going, is it's time. The time for reviews is over and time for action is here. That line has not changed, but that the action or desire just to keep talking about the Commission's failures or the agency's failures rather than the agency and the Commission to get off their backside and become more efficient and just do the do.
Yeah, right. So just to sum up, they have come out with a report, but they still don't have any timelines or clarity on what registration will look like under the new registration system or when it will come in.
Which is absolutely ridiculous because the NDIS review has the full structure, has the support of government, has the support of national cabinet, has the, in principle, support from states, and the pathway and the timeline of 5 years set to it. And yet we're still here talking about more reviews, more inquiries, more consultations, and while we do appreciate the pretense of co-design, the decision on all of this was made at the NDIS review. Can we just start implementing it so we can see how the system's going to work and what needs to happen in the next 5 years for that system to change? But one transition that is kind of working for, actually I don't even know if it's for the better, that is from PRODA to RAM, and what that is the relationship authorization manager. And for NDIS registered providers, accessing and setting up the staff to gain access to the MyPlace portals has always been a problem, and now it's just even another layer of problematic to do so, because every staff has to be joined up through relationship authorization manager, which requires those staff to create a MyID in order to log in. And that needs to actually be done by the end of 2025, as the access through PRODA will cease and you will no longer be able to get into access the NDIS portal through there.
That's pretty huge and pretty annoying. And I know I've had issues with this stupid system.
There is no one that I know that has not had an issue getting access or gaining access to my ID or my Gov ID as it was formerly known. And the relationship authorization manager, it was just as confusing as Proto is.
Oh, I'm so glad they're making it easier on all of us.
Oh, well, at least there'll be a little bit more consistency because the support and stuff from my ID seems to be progressing a little bit more than Proto was. So we can hope.
Our last bit is that last episode we discussed the art and music therapy inquiry. This is your reminder to listen to that episode if you haven't. We explained the establishment of the Evidence Advisory Committee, the EAC. If that's not ringing bells, again, I've got a blog about this on Provider Advisory Services website. So make sure you go there to read what I've written so that hopefully you understand. In researching this episode, I found that the EAC is conducting inquiries into exercise physiology, active, passive trainers, assistance animals for autistic people or people with intellectual disability, psychiatric assistance dogs, seizure alert dogs, smart home appliances for cooking, cleaning and gardening. The EAC will make recommendations to the NDIS ministers and NDIA on the safety, suitability and value for money of supports for NDIS funding, looking at the best available evidence. They are holding consultations and everyone is invited to make a submission to the EAC. Everyone's perspective will be different, so it is imperative that they hear from you. I am quite concerned about the idea that unqualified people might attempt to do what exercise physiologists do. When an exercise physiologist has a degree in that discipline and it can't be done by just anyone, people could get injured, and I'm really concerned about that. It's also yet another review into review, Sam.
These are things. I think reviews are probably something that we're going to have to get used to for quite some time in the NDIS world. But I think this one does pose some potential silver linings, because if we know that there's quite some good positive outcomes, especially in seizure alert animals, and also the calming effects or alert effects for neurodiverse individuals with animals when they're starting to have red zone or get heightened. This committee has done quite so since its establishment, this committee has shown that it does actually bring in some positive change, because art therapy was going to be canned prior to it going through this review and the submissions that were pushed in. So I would definitely encourage everyone in the space that has some real good insights into how it's been beneficial and why it should be included.
You're right that the idea of looking into assistance, all of those different assistant dogs, and even smart home appliances, as the ABC recently talked to a woman who requested an appliance to help her cook because she has severe arthritis in her hands, but she's a mum and she still wants to be able to cook for her family, right? And the NDIS said, no, we're not going to spend $2,000 on an appliance. We are going to spend almost $11,000 on a support worker coming in every night to make you dinner. Now, The problem with this is it costs more than the fucking appliance requested, right? That's my first problem. If they're all about saving money, what the fuck, NDIS? The second bit is that this removes this person's independence, and this person then explained how she's no longer then able to cook for her family, and that is something that is really important to her. And they've taken that away from her. Also, not everyone wants support workers around them all the fucking time. Look, there's some of these I really hope go the right way. I think that I'm personally very pessimistic about this and think that the government will step in and say, well, it's all about money. Now, also that art and music therapy haven't just been given the red light, because if you want art or music therapy in your plan, you still have to go through the technical advisory team at the NDIA. You can't just give them a report that says, yes, you need it and this is why, and then them say, yep, good to go. They haven't actually said art and music therapy is then available for everybody. It's not, because it still has to go through this extra layer of scrutiny beyond the planner. And I suspect that that's something that will happen with these things, even if the EAC decide they are worth having as supports under the NDIS.
I think you're probably right there. There's definitely quite a lot of consideration. And I think it's about, like, as you said, while it saves money, it just seems to be this very old school mentality that if it's not support in this way, then is it really support?
Yeah, exactly. And it's very old school in that we'll just do it for you instead of doing it with you.
It's very disappointing for that kind of mentality, especially because it doesn't empower and it doesn't uplift us, and it definitely doesn't save money.
No, exactly. So it's really seriously frustrating, and like I do hope all of these decisions come out the way that we would want them to, but I don't see that they will. So everyone, make sure you get your submissions in. Please make a big stink
on all the
this.
Reviews.
Yeah.
Or choose your review. There's lots of people answering all the reviews, but get in on it.
You get to choose your own adventure with all of these. There's so
like
many.
the old books back in the day, when the adventure books, when you go, I read this page, and it goes, just choose this choice to go to page 42, or choose this answer to go to page 79.
I would always do both because I was.
Of course you would.
Yeah. I had to know what both the answers were.
Well, I just reread them, and it's a new adventure every time. Just like being an NDIS provider.
Right.
Unfortunately, though, it's not fiction. It is a reality, and there's always lots going on, and that's why we do what we do.
So that's all the news items we've got for you this time. Is that it? I mean, there was heaps. There's heaps that we talked about. So what we want you to do is subscribe or follow the podcast in the app that you're listening to this in, please. It really helps other people find the podcast, and also it means you will get alerted the very second that a new episode is available to you.
And plus, in that way, we know you love us.
Yes. Also, please give us 5-star reviews and write a little review. That really helps other people find the podcast as well.
Well, until next time, Hannah, huzzah!
Bye. This episode is brought to you by Provider Advisory Service. What if your next audit wasn't just about compliance, but about people? Introducing the Provider Optimization Pathway, a 2-meeting diagnostic that transforms how NDIS, aged care, and health providers lead, engage, and grow. POP dives deep into leadership, workforce, and consumer experience, revealing what's working, what's missing, and what's possible. It's not just a report, it's a roadmap to build a resilient, people-first organisation where your team thrives and your clients feel the difference. Go to provideradvisory.au, no .com, just provideradvisory.au for more information. This episode was made possible with support from Industry Decoders. Industry Decoders is here to assist NDIS professionals become the best providers they can be. We offer training, development, and support. We can help you write care plans and reports, and we can answer your NDIS questions. Check out the website at plandecoders.com.au/industry-decoders to find out more. We are also offering our 2-hour Industry Decoder Q&A sessions, an easy and fast way to have your NDIS questions answered by me, Hannah. Contact me today to find out more. Thank you for listening. Please share with people you know. Until next time, as the Green Brothers say, don't forget to be awesome.